Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. My dear friends, students, teachers, mentors, ladies and gentlemen, while taking the opportunity in the availability of time, which we have in the lockdown period, and is advised by some of my friends, that we should develop some lectures for the engineering community. I'm very grateful to Dr. Ashfaq, who has been always very kind and very mentoring for encouraging to share my little knowledge with the engineering community in the diversified areas of project management, procurement management, construction administration, engineering economics, and many other important attributes of the engineers like communication skills, engineering leadership, and things like that. So this series of lectures, which has already been started at my YouTube channel under the name of Project Management, we will try to cover the important aspects of the project management. And today we will take the most important part of the project management, that is under the procurement management. And the procurement management, as a matter of fact, is one of the very important knowledge area in the project management. We discussed this last time. So for the next half an hour, we will take the first part of this lecture, and that would be about the procurement management process. And then in the second and third part, we will try to further discuss the contract and some PPRA regulations. It's very important to discuss here that since I'm recording this lecture on the Zoom, which is a free technology, but certainly for a very limited time, the free version is available only for 40 minutes. So we will be recording these lectures in an interval of 40 minutes each. This is just brief about my background, and most of you know that I've been in this engineering and later on become the Vice Chancellor of the City University, and then followed by the Vice Chancellor of Karakoram International University. So currently I'm working with the Karakoram International University as Vice Chancellor, but at the same time I'm teaching many civil engineering and project management courses to the students of BS and MS programs. If you just go into the details of my qualifications, I did my PhD in civil engineering, and then I also did the MPhil in economics and MS structural engineering, MBA in economics, MS environmental design, and you can see. So today I have about 32 years of my experience, a diverse experience of project management, construction management, engineering management, and then also dealing with the higher education, the challenges of planning in the higher education, the strategic planning, the environmental design, and many more things like that. I've authored a couple of books on the high strength concrete or high performance concrete, project management, disaster management, one manual for the HEC and environmental and social management plan. And then I also authored one of the book on engineering economics for the undergraduate students. And currently I'm writing two books at least. One is the project procurement and contract administration and professional ethics, which I think would be a very good book. And again, I'm also writing on the academic quality assurance. Apart from this, I'm regularly authoring in the local newspaper of Gilgit-Baltistan in the Urdu, and the series which I'm authoring at least 2 articles every week, and that I write under the Daricha Ilm Tahqiq, which refers to the Karakoram University and its role in the Gilgit-Baltistan. So diverse subjects are being taught at this portal, and it creates a lot of interest from the different parts of the Gilgit-Baltistan. Now, coming to my interest, academic and research leadership, I authored about 35 or 40 journal papers, then followed by 75 plus conference paper, invited talks. I have completed 4 or 5 major projects in the research, and more than 200 projects or 300 projects in the infrastructure development, in the IT, in the human resource development, and many more projects. So that is my diverse kind of experience. And the areas which I normally take interest is the financial productivity, higher education, structural engineering, project management, and things like that. So this is just the layout of this, but certainly we will try to finish this. This is a one-day program we had in Skardu last year, and we were planning this year in Gilgit also, but unfortunately due to COVID and due to the, it was really planned in the end of March with the help of Mr. Abdur Rahman and the staff from the EPE and CPD program of Pakistan Engineering Council, but unfortunately, due to the outbreak of the COVID-19, the lecture was not held. Now, the procurement, basically, we normally say that it is the process of acquiring goods and services for the projects. And the processes which are involved in the procurement of goods and services are called normally procurement. Now, in the engineering projects, we have 3 kinds of procurements. We normally call it GWS, which is goods, works, and services. Now, the goods are most of the time the finished products, which are normally in the finished, and we, for example, can have a lot of equipment, tools, and then we can have the finished products, like we can have the furnitures, can have the frames, the machines. And then we have the works, which we are normally tendered out, or which are tendered to the outside agencies. And then we have services, and the services are normally, we refer to the design services, the construction supervision services, consultancy services, and so on. Now, it also involves the planning, budgeting, scheduling, and follow-up of control, all fall under procurement. So you plan, you budget, you schedule, and then you follow up there to see that all these plans are really happening at sites or not. Now, the problem with the construction or the projects in engineering projects is that we don't have the plugins all the time. And we cannot believe in just-in-time kind of inventory management in which the finished products can be made available at site once they are required. But it's not possible in the engineering projects, because in the engineering projects, many things we develop at site, and many things we fabricate at site. So it's not easy in the engineering projects, in the construction projects, to have the just-in-time concept of inventory management. Now, we discussed that we can have the material, we can have the equipment, components, work packages, off-the-shelf things which are available in the finished products. We can have the bulk material like cement, metal, piping. We can have the consumables like nail, bolts, lubricants, and we can have the support equipment for like cranes, lifts, mixers, and all these together would make the procurement process. We can have the administrative equipments like computer, project office facilities, equipment, and all these which are important in the projects sometime. So all these together make basically the need for the projects. Now, this slide is just showing us that, for example, for a typical industrial projects, we can have different kind of activities like engineering, which refer to design, which is mostly 5%. Then we have a lot of equipment and material procurement, which makes 65%. And we also make some construction for the factory, which may be 15%, and the testing and commissioning is 10%. This is just showing a brief description or a division of how these various activities or procurements are involved in the industrial projects. But certainly, this does not mean that for every project, for every kind of we can have the same kind of, definitely depend on the nature of industrial project. Okay, so just I was putting off the light on the bake side because that was creating a trouble. This is the typical procurement management in which we start with the procurement planning, and then it is followed by the solicitation of planning. That once you solicit the bids, in which we issue the RFP or the tenders or the quotation notices, and then we invite the tenders, then we go for the selection process, then we go for the contract administration, and finally we close out the project. So these are some of the very important elements which are involved in the project procurement. Okay. Just I want to add a bit light, which is not very good at this particular place where I'm sitting, just to improve the quality of light if we can. Yes. So let's just, so that you can see my face in a more. Okay. The next we have the planning process, in which we go for the plan procurement, and the light is not very comfortable for me, so I'll just put it off. And we would go with the, so the plan purchase and acquisition, that we plan the different type of equipment, we plan the works and the supplies and the procurement. So normally this is planned, and then we decide that what kind of contracting documents will be required, the specification, the number and make, etc. Then we go for the seller response, that we invite the bids, our tenders, our quotations, or the proposal, our expression of interest. Normally, for consultancy services and for consultancies, we invite proposals, and we use the RFP, which means the request for proposal. The tender documents or the bids are normally used in the construction works, and quotations are for small, well-defined works, and the expression and interest are normally for a larger kind of projects in which we are trying to develop multiple solutions and also to explore the possible solutions. So all these terms are interchangeably used, and the most common term which we are using is the bid, which is the tender or bid or quotation, and but proposal would definitely mean some kind of solution based on consultancy services. For the procurement of services, we use the term request for proposal, whereas in the construction works or the engineering projects, we use the tender, invitation to tenders, and invitation to bids, and then we have the expression of interest, and I will share with you. So once this process is done and the required or the recommended tender or bidding document is used, then we go for opening of the bids, and we select the seller, and we review the offers which have been received in terms of the criteria which has been given in the tender document, and based on that we review the offers, and then tenders are opened, they are assessed on the evaluation criteria, and if the negotiation is allowed in the tender, we will discuss some kind of tenders where the negotiation is allowed, but in general circumstances, the Pakistan Public Procurement Regulatory Authority is not allowing any kind of negotiation except in specific conditions. And then we finally select the bidder based on the approved criteria, which has been given in the tender documents at the stage of the tendering. Once the tendering is done and we select the bidder based on the approved criteria, or evaluated, best evaluated solutions, or the lowest evaluated bid, whatever criteria we have selected, then we go for signing of the contract, and then the contract administration starts, which is the relationship between the buyer and seller, contractor, and the employer. And then we review the document to ensure that how the performance can be made possible under different circumstances, and we develop the relationship between the two parts. And the contract document is basically a very important document which describes the relationship between the two parties, and how if there is any deviation from the contract, then how the corrective measures can be taken. So all these important considerations should be there in the contract document, and we will discuss this. We also contract related changes, that if there is some changes which are important for improvement of the project or in the interest of project, then we may go with some kind of change in specification, change in quantity, change in the nature of services, change in the number. All these would require change management, and we will discuss this. There is a specific clauses in the contract which covers the contract changes. And then once this is completed, then definitely we also test the performance of various items. And at the end of the day, all these things are specified by contract agreement, which describes the relationship, the terms and conditions between the buyer and seller. And once the work has been completed successfully, then we go for the next phase, and that next phase is basically the contract closure, that we officially, administratively close the contract, and we will discuss the various options of the contract closure. Now, these are various options. I will not go into detail, but there are 5 or 6 types of very common ways of doing the projects. The traditional is that we design, tender, and build, that we get the services of the consultants. We get the design first, and then we, based on the design and the tender documents, we go for the bidding process, and we invite the contractors, and the contractors are then allowed to construct the facility as per the design drawings. Now the consultant may be either just limited to the design and contract document development, or they may also be part of the supervision, maybe top supervision or detailed supervision. The latest version of the first design bid build is then design and build, that we assign the construction and the design both the roles to the same entity, and then definitely the risk is transferred to the design and build contractor. Then sometimes we can have the construction managers, and these are basically the managers which are experts in the construction projects, and these managers basically work directly for the employer, and based on the employer terms and conditions, they manage the construction, but certainly they are the people who are having very high qualification and expertise in the construction. And then we have the project managers. Apart from the construction projects, we can have the other kinds of projects also, and these can be multiple types of projects. There is a document and construct, that this is a fixed price contract that we design and perform contract to owner, and then later on the design under contract to contractor. So this is normally for small works. We separate prime contracts, again for small work, in which we, for example, when we construct the house, we can have the prime contractor, and this with the prime contracts, then they can have the small contracts. And then we have the turnkey projects, that these are the projects which are sometimes called EPC project, engineering, procurement, and construction projects. These are the from A to Z activities are involved. Sometimes we have the build, own, and operate, transfer, boot, and boat. These are the projects which are executed under the funding arrangement by the investor, and then this project is then owned by the investor for some time, and then they are operating it for say 30 or 50 years. And once this time is over, they go for the transfer of facility. And this is normally done for mega projects. For example, if a firm is investing in the in the metro system or metro development, then they will get the returns of this maybe for 50 years. And once this period is completed, then they can transfer this facility to the government. We have the joint venture projects in which more than 2 or more people or firms combine together to make their team to do the projects. And then we have the force account in which we are doing the small PT works based on the daily must roll, daily attendance. And now this is just telling us that how the various activities are involved in different major works. For example, if you are doing a land acquisition for a road project, then you will involve, and this is where the planning for the procurement is very important. So all these activities which are involved in the land acquisition have been lined out. And you see that these activity diagrams have been developed by the Planning Commission of Pakistan to assess the engineers to draft their plans well before time. So for example, in next 1 year, what are the particular activities out of this list which you have planned and what will be the cost? So we develop the time plan and cash plan and see that how these activities in each quarter can be then put into work, and these works are then converted into liability or cash plans. So this is just about the acquisition of land. This is another about consultancy, and how the consultancy service will be acquired by the employer. There are a couple of steps involved, and you will definitely go through all these steps. Maybe some of these steps are skipped because of your own expertise, but certainly these are very important steps which you normally would need to hire the consultancy services. Then we can have the civil work other than PWD, that if you are doing your own work by employing your own project office and you can have the internal capacity, then you will involve a lot of steps in this whole process. And based on these various steps required in the procurement of construction projects, you will then develop your activities for the entire year and see that how these activity can then be transferred to the work plan and cash plan. This is a typical activity plan for the road construction. Again, starting from the advertisement to the final construction of bridges, culverts, and then final breakthrough. All the important activities which are normally involved in the construction of roads have been spelled out in this activity diagram. And in this activity diagram, you try to see that how these various timelines can be fixed. And based on that, certainly you can come up with your cash plan. This is for the equipment of goods, procurement of equipment and goods for the labs and for the departments. You can have a number of equipment we normally require. So for this, you have a specific list of activities, and these activities are then certainly based on your requirements. So the various activities which are required in this whole process have been spelled out here. When we go to the tendering process, we have, by and large, the 2004 PPRA has given us the one envelope procedure, which is normally, we have only the financial bids are most of the time secured, and then we have the two envelope procedures, and in which we have the single stage two envelope and the two stage two envelope, and then we have some negotiated contracts. So the single stage two envelope procedure, very commonly used for the technical projects in which we have need more expertise, and we cannot go for direct single envelope procedure. We go for the two envelope procedure. So one is the technical and the other is financial, and then we open the technical bids first, and the financial bids are not opened, and we evaluate the technical bids based on the technical evaluation already specified, and then based on that score, we see that how many of these technical bids have been qualified, and then we open the financial proposal of those who have already qualified. So we will discuss further this in the PPRA rules in quite detail. In the two envelope procedure, sometimes we have some further questions raised in the first stage, which is technical proposal stage. And when it is evaluated, we can come across some limitations, some problems, some new solutions. And based on that, we can go then for second stage, and we can refer again to the prospective bidders based on the technical proposal evaluations to review our technical parameters, technical specifications, and things like that. And then based on that, we can allow them to either resubmit their financial proposals, or maybe they can withdraw without any penalty, and or they may be continuing with the same financial price. So the T&L procedures are mostly used where we have highly complex projects, and where the normal singles to T&L procedure cannot be adopted. So we will discuss this in quite detail under the PPRA. In the second stage, which is the revised technical proposals, are solicited that if the technical proposals which you have collected for the first stage are not enough to respond to your requirements, then you may revise your term of reference, and you may solicit the revised technical proposal based on the new developments or new understanding of the problem. And then based on that, you may solicit or invite the revised technical proposals. Now, some of the firms may not be able to come to the second technical proposal, and they may withdraw with the bidding process. So you can give them an options to withdraw from this process. But some of them may go for additional revision of their financial proposal based on the new technical parameters or technical requirements, and some of them may continue with the old financial proposal. So based on the response of the bidders, you can then give them the leverage to go for a proper decision. Now, normally the ratio between the technical and financial, we recommend 70 to 30, but for highly complex and technical nature of jobs, it can be 80 to 20. It can be even less, like 50 to 50, depending on the nature of the project. But definitely, the more complex and the more technical projects would like to have more technical score. The negotiated tenders, which are sometimes the tenders which are required, and which are sometimes we believe that the manufacturing or the goods we are procuring are available only with one distributor or with one manufacturer, sole manufacturer, then definitely we will not be in a position to get the competitive response. So in this case, we will go to direct contracting, and we will negotiate with the prospective bidders our firm. This may be for things like highly technical or artistic reason, where the intellectual property is belonging to only one person and who is having this particular facility. So for this, and again, the direct contractor can also be required in terms of reasons of extreme urgency, and we will discuss this extreme urgency situation under PPRA. The confidentiality is really very important for the procurement process. That whole process should be confidential. You should not share the bids of one firm with the other. Important bid information and the details should be made available transparently to the bidders, and both sides should take respect and integrity, and ethical integrity is very important. We have some petty purchases in which we normally go for direct purchases. For example, the amount is not only 5,000, but the government is increasing it that 10,000 initially, but now it has been increased to 25,000. That if the purchases are of small nature, the the procuring agency can procure this kind of facility directly from the market on single quotation or single receipt direct procurement. And then if the amount is less than 100,000, then we can go for the quotation. We can collect the quotation from the market and see that what can be the best price for that particular. But this procurement should not be more than 100,000. Now the PPRA is revising this, and it is now being increased maybe 50 times or 30 times. We will discuss later in the revised proposal. Direct contracting is sometimes the supplementary services. For example, you have already procured generator and you want the spare parts of the generator, so you directly procure from the manufacturer of the generator, which you believe that can be available easily and with discounted or rational price. So in this case, when the major supply is already done and you want to have some additional supply up to 50%, 15%, or you want to have some component of the major supply, then you can go for the direct contracting. This is with sole manufacturers. We already discussed that you can directly go for the procurement of manufactured products where the manufacturer is the sole and single manufacturers and he is having the sole process. We will discuss the remaining part next time. By that time, we will discuss the PPRA, important PPRA rules, and it was enough for today. Thank you very much, and I believe that we can meet next time to discuss the PPRA rules.